This is the Boss ME-90, and I've been using it for the past month in the studio and in my band. I've had it for over a month, and I've been testing it deeply to make sure that I can make a good video, because my first ever multi-effects was the Boss ME-30. So I really wanted to make sure that I did a good job in this video. And in that spirit, let's stop talking and go straight to some sounds. Here are my top 5 tones from the Boss ME-90. I'm not much of a country player, but I do enjoy a sort of broken up Fender-y kind of sound with some slapback delay and naturally a telly. And that was on the neck, by the way. The bridge sounds equally as twangy. Yeah, so that is a country sound. If you want cleaner, it does cleaner, but I like it just there. Let's go a different direction entirely. Let's go metal. So yes, it does the high gain very well, if not, to my ears, a little bit bassy on that preset, but it might be because I'm monitoring it through the Katana 100 Mark II, but we'll talk about that in a little bit. I want to keep rolling with the sounds. Let's do something more atmospheric and spacey. Yeah, I'd like to call that patch the edge of space. Yeah, and if I can do that, then so can you too. Sorry. Let's do something 90s alternative. Back to the telly. Now, as usual, the presets are slightly overcooked with the gain and with the reverb, but that's because they're presets and they're created by a different person with a different guitar. They are a good starting point though, and if I'd had that preset in the actual 90s, I don't think I'd have ever upgraded my gear, and I probably wouldn't be here making this YouTube channel. Kind of thankful I didn't. Right, let's do something else. So the ME-90 can do a whole range of different styles and has a whole bunch of effects in there. Let's go over what the ME-90 is and what the ME-90 isn't. So it is a guitar multiple effects system. It says it right there. It's got 11 amplifiers straight from the Boss GT1000 and 60 different effects built in. And although those sounds come from the GT1000, this is not a direct competitor, nor is it a competitor for things like the Helix or the Fender ToneMaster Pro or the Quad Cortex or the, all those high-end stuff. This is intentionally a budget unit. The ME-90 is the successor of the Boss ME-80, and they're completely what you see is what you get. There's no menu diving whatsoever. In fact, we only have 4 buttons, and the rest are knobs, if you don't count the foot switches and the expression pedal. So, if I wanted to edit a patch, I would just go here to edit. I would then change the amp, maybe from natural to juggernaut. It changes to number 5, so I know that that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Then let's say I want to turn the compressor on. I turn the compressor on, or FX, I should say. So if I go down here, then it's the compressor. And then up here, it's an octave, I think, if I've got that in the right position. It's kind of hard to see from here. I could add some distortion, which is any kind of boost or distortion. And then I can turn off the delay, turn off the reverb. And then to save that, I just press right. It's on user bank number 2, patch number 2, and I would press right again to save that patch. Now, I'm not going to save that patch because I don't want to overwrite it, but I do want to hear what it sounds like. Let's come out of that by pressing exit. We're now back to U2 number 2, so that's user bank 2, patch 2. We've got 4 of those just here. 1, 2, 3, 4. I can go to this one and this one and this one and this one. Up here, I've got bank down, so it takes me to user bank 1. If I keep going, this is preset bank. And at the moment, the user bank and the preset banks are the same. And then this one, of course, goes up. I can go up all the way through. It'll take me to P1. There are 36 presets and 36 user preset slots available. And personally, I think that's enough, probably more than enough, because if I can give you some personal experience advice, if you're playing in a band and you have, I don't know, a set of 20 songs, don't have a different patch for every song. Try and make it simple and just turn things on and off and skip through patches. It will sound a lot better and it's a lot easier to manage. I promise you. So at its core, the Boss ME-90 has two different modes. We're in memory mode at the moment, so that means going up and down the different banks and then selecting your patch. But you can also go into manual mode by pressing that, which now takes you to within that preset. And this is the mode that I like to use live because you can turn things on and off just like a Stompbox. Big old reverb. Yeah, so this is what I was talking about, not having hundreds or 36 presets set up. You could have just one main patch and turn things on or off. And then if you want a slightly different distortion, you just go to a different patch and turn that distortion on and off. And the beauty of the ME-90, apart from this lower price for a Boss product, is the simplicity. And to test that simplicity, I took the ME-90 to a band rehearsal and used it as my only pedal. And what I can honestly report back is that I felt just like I did in the 90s. I felt young again because I was using a Boss ME product at my feet and I danced around it pretty simply. Some of you might be wondering how sturdy these plastic buttons are and why didn't they use the big metal stompers that we're used to. Back in the day, I used to stamp the hell out of my ME-30 and this will do the same thing. I'd actually argue that many, many years later, the Boss have improved these and they feel tactile, they feel strong, they're nice and responsive. You can really smack them and nothing's gonna fail. I really think you could hit that with your foot as hard as you could and you're not gonna do much damage. Well, maybe some damage to your foot. Let's talk about how to connect it because there are 5 ways to connect the Boss ME-90. You can run it in stereo, but I've got a mono signal coming from the left-hand side out to the power amp in on the Boss Katana 100 Mark II. That means the Katana is just making it louder. And in fact, none of the effects are enabled. Everything is disabled once you plug into the power amp in. And I decided to use that because it's another Boss product, and I'm guessing that Boss have tested this combination. If you have a Mark II Katana and you're doing it this way, there's a switch just here, and you have to turn that to line. Because in this instance, the Katana is just using the power amp and the speaker, so you're just making the ME-90 loud. You can also go into the front end, into the input of an amp. It doesn't have to be a Katana, it could be any amp. Then you need to turn off the preamp in the ME-90 because then you'd have a preamp in the pedal going into a preamp in the amp, and that may not sound good. It may, but it may not. And again, you can do that by pressing Edit and then going into Amp and turning it off and then saving that. I'm not going to save it though, I'm going to put it back to how it was. The next way to connect your ME-90 is via USB to your computer for recording to a DAW. It doesn't come with the cable, but there's a USB socket just here. And I am recording this video via that Lewitt mic and into my MacBook Air just here into Logic. And the beauty of this is that I can record 4 channels at the same time. A stereo signal that's wet, so it's got the effects on that the ME-90 is processing, and a stereo channel that's dry, meaning it's just like plugging the guitar straight in to the computer. So let's select a patch. Let's do patch number 1, and I'll show you what's happening in Logic. So, first time was wet, that was the patch from the Boss ME-90. Second time was dry, that was just the guitar, which I could then use that signal to reamp either through the ME-90 or through any amp I wanted to. or any software that I wanted to. So I always record 4 channels when I'm doing this, and I recommend that you do too. The fourth way to connect this is directly to a mixing desk or to a PA speaker. And if you want to do that, you probably want to know that the ME-90 has 3 spare slots to load your own impulse responses. But before you do that, each amp that you select on here has its own impulse response, or its best impulse response, set to the Boss ME-90. But if you want to add your own, you just have to hold down Edit and then press one of these buttons. So that's space 1, that's 2, that's 3, and that's 0, meaning that's the built-in one dedicated to whichever amp you've selected. I really like this feature because it means it's giving you that little bit of flexibility that Boss could have easily forgotten. And the fact that Boss have put that in there means they are thinking about the working musician. And this is what this pedal's for, the working musician. It's priced that way, it's set up that way, and I think it will cover most people's situations. However, if you only play in your bedroom, you might like to know there's also a headphone socket out. One of the most important things about using a multi-effects to me is how good is the tuner. And that doesn't mean how accurate is it. It means during a gig, how quickly can I access it and how clearly can I see it. And with the ME-90, the answer is hold that button down for 2 seconds and you get the tuner. Then as I start to play, you'll see that come up on there. So, hang on, let's detune it. That means I'm on the B string, but it's slightly flat, so I'm going to tune it up. Green on either side, just like the Boss TE2 or TU2 or TU3. That means we're in tune. And if I go too sharp, it's going to go red up there. And I can report that whilst I was at band practice, I could see the tuner beautifully, and I could access it quickly and easily. So it's just like having a tuner pedal that takes you a little bit longer to turn on. I also like using it as a mute switch, which I guess takes me on to the expression pedal, which more often than not I use as a mute switch. So in between songs I do that so my guitar doesn't make a noise to the amp. Now, let's come out of tuner actually, there we go. Here is pedal effects. So you've got all these different effects ranging from wah through to octave down and octave up, to freeze and oscillating delay, to the level of delay. And of course, a volume pedal. But to access those effects, you need to press it down kind of hard. There you go. And that pink purpley light comes on. You see it just there? And then if I press it again hard, there, it goes off. In fact, let's test this now. I can't believe I've never done this in a video. And you get to see my Crocs. Oh. That's why I've never done that before. That's my workout for today. Yeah, super easy to turn on and off. Sounds not the best with that patch, I don't think. I'm hoping I can get a better wah signal than that. Hang on, I might need to pause for a minute. That was embarrassingly difficult. Right, the Boss ME-90 does the meat and potatoes guitar sounds pretty well. Very well. And for the price, extremely well for a Boss product. However, there are some more sort of experimental fun sounds in here as well. I think that's a really usable sound, and although I wouldn't want to put it on a recording if I was going for an authentic acoustic guitar sound, I'd use an acoustic guitar. But if you're playing a show where you need an acoustic guitar sound for one song, I'd much rather take the ME-90 than use an extra guitar and put that through the PA, etc. because, yeah, it's just all that faff. But don't forget that this is $300 roundabout, and a Boss acoustic simulator is more than $100, I think. And even a cheap version of the acoustic simulator has got to be at least $50. So that's paying for itself already? I'm justifying buying gear every day? Right, this also does a really good harmonizer. And as a Queen fan, I really dig that. Again, really usable. I've had trouble with harmonizers over the years, and I've owned several harmonizer pedals and used them in multi-effects and never really got on with them. And although I can still clearly hear that's not a second guitar, again, if you need a second guitar part in a band and you set this harmonizer up correctly, that is more than usable. So get on with your Thin Lizzy and your probably Hotel California. I do want to try the muff fuzz. But let's go into manual mode, turn the amp to that one, and then turn the EQ. Oh no, do I want the EQ off? No. EQ off, delay off, reverb we'll put there, and we want the muff fuzz on about there. Yeah, it's fun. Again, you'll get away with it. It does everything you need. If you need a fuzz sound and you only want to spend this much money, that'll do it. What about the rat? Hang on. Is that rat? That's rat. Let's try distortion. Distortion must be DS1, right? Again, usable. Happy with that. Very happy. Right, the ME-90 also has an effects loop for putting in external pedals, such as this fuzz. You can even tell it where to put that fuzz. Do you want it pre-preamp or post-preamp? So before the preamp or after the preamp. Here you get to S0 by pressing the edit button a bunch of times. And then S0 means before the preamp. S1 means after the preamp. But it's a fuzz. I'm going to try it first before the preamp. It sounds good, and I like using this fuzz in particular because it can be quite picky with what it sounds good with and what it doesn't sound good with. And also, the ME-90 doesn't have that kind of fuzz face fuzz, so that's a really nice addition. There are some things I don't like about it, and number one has to be, even though I love the simplicity, I'm having trouble finding out which one of these settings I'm on, and having an LED going around there would have been super useful, or having the numbers on there that correspond with that. So having 2 and 2 and 3 and 3. So that, I don't know why Boss have done it that way, and if you have better eyesight than me, then you're probably okay. But that's my own personal thing that I don't like. I do see that this gets darker as I go around to heavier distortions. That's interesting. I didn't see that before. Does it do it with the amps? Oh yeah, it does. So a clean amp would be green. Does the tree? Yeah, clean amp is green. Okay, that's fair. That's a slight indication. But yeah, indeed, some other way of indicating that, maybe just with numbers written on there, would have been better. The second thing I don't like, but I'll let them get away with it, is that there's no power supply included. I let them get away with it for 2 reasons. Number one, it comes with batteries because you can battery operate the ME-90 and you can get it running out of the box straight away, which is probably preferential for some people. The second thing is it runs on 9 volts. So if you have any normal power supply for pedals, it will run the ME-90 almost for sure. So I'll let Boss off on the no power supply, but it would be cool if it included just that wall thing. And before I leave you, I'm going to answer this one question which I'm guaranteed to get in the comment section somewhere is, Andy, I already have a Boss Katana, and so do you. Do you really need the ME-90? And the answer is, I don't know. But kinda, because there's so much more functionality at your feet, which I enjoy. So if you don't have the GAFC controller for the Katana, but you have a Katana, you can definitely use the Katana as your amp, and the ME-90 will complement it rather than replace it. If you have a GAFC and this, you could use the preamp from here and then something else from there. You could have 2 reverbs. You could, experiment to your heart's content. But I don't think these products, as in the Katana and the ME-90, work against each other. If I only had to have one, I think for sake of simplicity, I'd probably still take the Katana. But if I was playing loads of gigs and I had a PA system, I would definitely take the ME-90 over the Katana because you can control it with your feet straight away. That's a bit of a cop-out answer, I think, but that's my answer for you. Now, I've looked online and the price for the ME-90 at the moment is around £300. So I dug out one of my old guitar magazines. This is Total Guitar from February 1998. I don't even think how old that is. But the point is, in here is a Boss ME-30, the first multi-effects I ever owned. In there, it costs £179 in 1998. And I converted that to today's money, which comes out at £330. Meaning, and I think this is right, that the ME-90 in 2023 is cheaper than the ME-30 was back in 1998. So things are actually getting cheaper? I don't know. I'm not an economist, but that seems to make sense to me. Let me know in the comments section if I totally ruined that. Sorry. I guess finally I should mention that you can save patches to your computer and share them on the Boss Tone Exchange. So if you don't fancy creating your own patches, there will be some up there on the website, and I'll put a link to the Boss Exchange thing in the video description. There'll also be links there so you can buy the ME-90 should you want to, and there'll be a link to join the channel if you want to be a part of the Guitar Geek channel. So to summarize, yes, I thoroughly recommend the ME-90. It's a great evolution of the ME series. It's super simple to use. The sounds are good to great. Programming it is easy, and there's nothing there that you don't need. It's cut down to exactly the bare minimum, but it will satisfy most people's needs. And if you ever see one out there in the wild, go plug into it. Don't just head for the Helix or the GT1000 or the Fender ToneMaster Pro. Try the ME-90 and you might be pleasantly surprised. Don't let it pass you by. And if you do try it, of course, leave a comment on this video to let me know. There's a big button right there if you want to subscribe to the channel. You don't have to, but don't feel the pressure to do it if you don't want to. New gear is nice, remember, but it's not about what you play, it's about why you play. I will see you in another video. Bye-bye!